Greetings, booktubers, and welcome back to Grammaticus Books. So what we're going to be talking about today is how I read books for Booktube. So I started this channel just a couple months ago, and when I started it, I wanted to make sure that I was making good progress with my reading so that I would have a good new content to present to viewers on the channel. But I'm not a fast reader. I'm not a slow reader, but I'm not a fast reader. I don't read at the pace of, say, a Steve Donahue or Micah Cummins, who has reduced his reading and is down to 85 books a year, which is just an astounding number. Or God forbid, a Criminale who apparently has superhuman powers in his ability to read books. I am not on their level. I am at the mere mortal level of reading. And I wanted to make sure that I could read books at a pace where it would create content, new and fresh content for the channel, but where I wasn't reading at such a fast pace or such a volume that it went from being an enjoyment to being something that was a job. Because this is definitely what I didn't want this to turn into, was a job. It was something that I enjoy. So I have a system that I think fits both those needs, that it lets me do good progress on my reading, but at the same time lets me enjoy books for myself, which is what I really want to do. And I don't want to lose that enjoyment via something that turns into a work process. So the way that I read is I have a 3-step process. And the first process is I always have at any time, I've got 3 books going. I have 3 different books going, but I have them going in different formats. And the first format that I read books in is a physical format. I have a physical book in my hand. Like right now, here's Brother Assassin, and I'll have a physical book on me. And the physical books that I carry around are almost always paperback versus a hardback. I'll own hardbacks. I have most of my hardbacks are downstairs. But when I'm reading, I'd far prefer to have a paperback on me than a hardback. And one of the reasons for that is I'm a fairly tall guy, and when I read and I'm reading for an hour or more, I like my back to be flat. And when I'm reading flat, it's far easier to just sit here with a paperback on my chest and manipulate a nice light paperback than it is to try to be fumbling with a big hardback book. Or I can throw this into a backpack, take it with me, I can pull it out at lunch, or wherever I need to be. It's light, it's transportable, and if I ding it up, there's probably 5 million more of these that were printed, and I can replace it very easily. So method number 1 of my 3-step method is I have a physical book that I'm reading at any given time. So what's method number 2? Well, method number 2 is audiobooks. So I just got this, Dracula. It's my new audiobook that I'm going to start listening to. And I love audiobooks. I absolutely think they're fantastic. And the way that I mostly listen to my audiobooks, well, if you're reading all the time, when you do your audiobook, when I'm in my car. I throw my audiobooks into the car, and I'm semi-retired, and I work 3 days a week. I have a 45-minute commute one way, going in and out, and that's if traffic is moving well. And I just put in an audiobook, and it makes the commute it makes the commute enjoyable instead of a chore. I love going in on commutes because I get through these great books. So I can get up to 4.5 hours a week just driving in and out of work, listening to audiobooks, which is the second way I keep another book going at any given time. Right now I've got Dracula, and I threw this one in, and being the genius that I am, Michael K. Vaughan kind of guilted me into doing Dracula. It's one of his favorite books, so I thought I'd give it a try. So being the genius that I am, I placed my order. By the way, I get all my audiobooks from my local library. If you're not using your local library as a resource, I highly encourage you to do it. They're going to have millions of titles. They're going to have hundreds of thousands of audiobooks that you can get. It's a fantastic resource, and it'll save you a ton of money. But I ordered this from my local library and ordered it the week before Halloween. So I ordered Dracula the week before Halloween, so you can guess where I was on the wait list. And I finally get it. I got it today. I pick it up on my way home from work. I throw it into the car for the rest of the drive home, and it's in Spanish. So I got Dracula in Spanish after waiting weeks and weeks for it. So I'm going to have to reorder it. I don't speak Spanish. I speak Russian and English, but Spanish is not one of my second languages. So I kind of failed on that one. But I love audiobooks. Audiobooks are just a fantastic way to increase your reading. Throw it into your car when you're driving and listen to them that way. And there's a right way and a wrong way to listen to audiobooks. And I have coworkers who say, man, I've just tried it. I've tried putting it in the car like you do, Grammaticus, and I just tune it out. And I would say, well, how are you listening to it in the car? What method are you using? Specifically, tell me exactly what you're doing. And invariably, they would say that they would hook it into like an ebook through their iPhone, and then they would put in their AirPods. And I'm like, stop right there. That's a fail. If you're trying to listen to an audiobook like Dracula, whether it's in English or Spanish, and you're listening to it via earphones or some type of a headphone piece, my experience is that it's not going to work. I can't explain it. I don't know why, but the difference between running the audiobook through your car speakers and putting it in an earpiece is enormous, because within 5 minutes of putting it in an earpiece, I guarantee what's going to happen is you're going to tune it out like background noise, like it's a music program or a music soundtrack running in the background. And it'll become sort of this just subliminal background track, and you won't be focused on the book. And when you take it out of your earpieces and you run it through the car speakers, whether that's on a disc player, which is how I prefer to do it, or you run your iPhone through your car player speakers, you're suddenly going to find that you're able to concentrate and focus on the book while you're driving, and you'll get a lot out of this. I highly recommend it. The other thing is that if you're not in your car and you're trying to listen to an audiobook, there are certain activities that are good that go with audiobooks and activities that are bad. And basically it's excuse me, I got some chewed up almonds, which I love, which are giving me a problem. Basically it's a left brain, right brain thing. The left side of the brain is involved in linear sequencing, mathematics, facts, logic, and reading. And then the right side of the brain is visualization, imagination, rhythm, and music, holistic thinking, and the arts. And what you can't do is you can't do two left-sided brain activities at the same time. So if you're trying to listen to an audiobook at the same time you're working a spreadsheet or doing something that requires you to have analytical thinking, it's going to fail. It's just going to crash unless you can divide your mind into separate quadrants. There's a famous science fiction book about being able to split your mind. I want to say it's Dune, but I think I'm wrong in that one. If anybody knows what it is, please put it in the comments. So you can't do two left-sided things. And the left-sided thing is listening to the audiobook, which is essentially reading. You're sequencing words and processing them, which is a left-side brain activity. You have to be doing a right-sided brain activity. So I will take my disc, I will throw it in there, and I will get an art project out. And I can work on an art project for hours, be completely focused and engrossed on it. And at the same time, I can absorb everything that's coming in on the audiobook. And it's wonderful. So that's how you can listen to an audiobook and get the most out of it. And it's just a fantastic way to expand your reading experience. So that's method number 2, in order to keep 3 things going at any given time. And the third way I keep a reading project going is comics. I love comics. Comics are great. And what I'll do is I'll have a large comic, like an omnibus, like this one here, which is getting dinged up on the edge there, dang it. This is the Thor Omnibus number 2, The Wrath of Odin, The Mighty Thor Volume 2, fantastic stuff. And what I do is I have this down on my kitchen table. I have it open in a big book holder because this thing's huge. You could lift weights with it. And as I'm getting ready to go into work, making breakfast or whatever in the morning, I'll walk over and I'll read 1 or 2 pages of Thor. By the way, look at that. This is like Jack Kirby and Stan Lee at their best. This stuff is fantastic. And I'll get home, I'll come in, I'll get my lunch ready for the next day or whatever I'm doing, and I'll read a page or 2 more of Thor or some other comic book. And that's how I keep things going, and that's how I read. But I know what you're saying. You're saying, Grammaticus, you left out one of the major ways to read books, and that's e-readers. And you're right, I did leave it out because e-readers are the work of the devil. The work of the devil. Kidding, they're not the work of the devil. Right? I'm only half kidding. They're half work of the devil. But no, I understand e-readers can be fantastic. I understand all the advantages to e-readers. Those are true advantages to having them. They're a fantastic way to read books. People love them, and there's a reason people love them and use them. I don't use them, and this is why I don't do e-readers. I don't do e-readers because I spent decades in a job where either I had my ass planted in a car, doing something in the car, or was going from point A to point B. And when I wasn't doing that, I was planted in front of a computer processing massive spreadsheets, or I was looking at thousands and thousands of scanned documents on a computer, going through and analyzing them and sorting them. And when I pick up an e-reader, it just gives me PTSD and puts me right back in that work spot. And I don't enjoy it. And when I was still working, picking up a physical book was my way of getting a break from doing all of that work that was on those electronic devices, on those computers and those iPads and those projection screens that I had to work on. So this was a physical break from it. It would put something physical in my hand. It took me completely out of that workspace and was a way to escape from it. And when I pick up an e-reader, it just puts me right back into that spot. And that's not why I read. I want to read because it's enjoyable and it's a break from that. So while all those advantages exist, for me, it's just not something that I want to do. But that's it. So what am I currently reading? Well, you've pretty much seen it right here. This is my current physical book. I'm reading Brother Assassin of the Berserker Wars. It's book 2. I finished book 1, did a video on it. You should check it out if you haven't seen it. I had Dracula, which I thought was going to be my new audiobook, which is in Spanish, so I'm going to have to reorder it. So I've replaced Dracula with Sapiens, the Evolution of Humans. That'll be a good one. I just started that. I'm just about maybe 15 minutes into it, and it's already great. And then with my comics, I'm here on the Thor Omnibus #2. I'm on page 368 of this. I read a couple of pages every day, and this is just fantastic stuff. When I finish this one, I've got Omnibus 1 and 2. I'm going to do a whole episode on these omnibuses because they're just fantastic. This is just Jack Kirby and Stan Lee at their best, and it's great stuff. But anyway, that is how I read for YouTube. That's how I keep my progress going, but I keep it where it's not a job for me and I still enjoy it. But I've got my 3 methods that I do, which is the physical book, the audio book, and then the comics that are just sort of the daily read in and out. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear your comments in the comments section down below. And other than that, take care, be safe, and I'll catch you in the future.